Some might say this is the fastest Ducati on the streets, and I just bought it, but right now it's split in half.
Your watch item is next on the block. Sold!
Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're receiving a V4 Panigale. It's in pieces though. I'll show you guys what I mean. The driver should be coming down the road any minute now. This is a 2021 Panigale V4S, but she smoked. Bike has been delivered. That was one of the easiest offloads I've ever done, and this is in probably the worst condition I've ever seen. The delivery driver, once again, a super awesome Romanian gentleman, and he showed me a few of his choppers, which you'll see on the screen here. Man, he used to ride. His wife doesn't allow him to ride anymore. But at first, we were wondering how are we even gonna unload this thing, but it was pretty easy. Look at this, it's already in the garage. There's the front half of the bike, and here is the rear half of the bike. And yes, that's a big chunk of the head gone. Now you're probably wondering, CJ, what are you doing? Hear me out. This motor is gonna need a rebuild, and I've been dying to do some motor work. One of the most powerful motorcycle engines ever produced. It will be quite the treat learning all about this engine, so we'll cut to future CJ when this build is revealed. Well, we are in the shop and we're working on the Ducati V4S. Just started disassembling the left side of the bike, and wow, it is so interesting every time I work on a different bike. The swing arm setup on this bike is crazy because it legit mounts directly to the engine. This brace bar right here supports the outside of the swing arm pivot bolt and bolts directly to the motor. And then the swing arm bolt runs directly through the back half of the case. Wow. So you could technically, and we're going to try this in a second, pop off this bolt and slide the chain off without actually having to cut it at all. Now, speaking of bolts, it is very interesting. I am missing 2 bolts on the clutch master cylinder right here, and there's a bolt missing for the pinch bolt on the swing arm. Now, I know this is a race bike, but are those weight savings safe? Now, this is not the OEM shock. It is an M2 shock that is paired with a $6,000 extended single-sided swing arm. Since this bike was lowered, it's on Brock's lowering suspension in the rear for the shock. Now, the reason we're missing the subframe on this bike is because the subframe they had on it was completely carbon fiber. So that sucker just snapped right off. And of course, that is also mounted directly to the engine block. There is no frame holding up this rear, which is just wild. This left case must have took a hard hit because it did crack and all the oil leaked out of that. Luckily, I'm seeing no cracks on the main block itself, which is what I'm worried about. It had an aftermarket Cordona suspension strain gauge GPS switch, which is the quick shifter. I have never seen one of these before. This is definitely not factory. Got your side stand switch mounted to that swing arm brace bracket, and then some Rizoma look like billet rear sets, which are pretty nice. I believe this is our transmission gear sensor right here. Now we're going to move up to the front and remove the coolers for the radiator and the oil cooler, and then hopefully get to that full titanium exhaust system. So I was taking off these throttle bodies, but I can't get to these center bolts because I need a long Torx 20 bit. And then these throttle bodies should pop right off, allowing us to get to the lower half of the airbox, which is just completely destroyed. But the throttle bodies themselves actually look to be in good condition. Just all the plastic around them has cracked away. And another really good thing is our ECU survived, and that is huge. And also, later in the video, I have a very special box to show you guys. Now, behind this cover for the exhaust, there are some bolts way down there, so we're gonna need to flip this engine up sitting upright so we can access those. And then we should be able to get this titanium exhaust off. Let's keep continuing disassembling the top of the motor. Well, check this out. We've got the motor pretty much disassembled. Just got off the Akrapovic exhaust, and you can see that's the symbol for the Akrapovic on top of the headers, so we know what type of exhaust it is. Full titanium. Still might be savable, a few dings and dents along with the edge. I'm fairly confident I know why this side cracked. Well, you can see on the left side, the frame bolts directly to the top of the head right here and down there on this bracket, and then the frame bolts to that bracket. And I'm almost 100% sure that it got hit so hard on this frame side that it just completely ripped the bolts out of the head and got this huge gaping hole in the head. Unfortunately, the front one did take a bit of an impact right down there and on the back side, so this one is damaged as well, even though there is no frame mounting points on the front of the V4. We disconnected everything on the inside, including the air intakes, the throttle bodies, and check this out. This is what the velocity stacks look like. That's an interesting design. There's like cutouts in the top of the ring. I'd love to know why they designed them like this. Throttle bodies, airbox, wiring harness, along with our good ECU. And since we flipped it over to get that exhaust off, we also can see we've got a dry clutch. STM Italy. I believe these come from the factory with a wet clutch, so I think this is an upgrade. I seriously love working on Ducatis. Ever since I got that 1199 back in the day, man, I love these bikes. We just left the knock sensors in position since they are below the head. We don't need to remove those. Along with these coil packs, which are made in Turkey, it says. Now to show you guys the special package, which actually I got from the previous owner. Here she is. The previous owner sent us the keys. We have the key from the previous owner, we have the ECU, we have the ignition, so technically we build this bike right, it should fire up, no problems. Oh yeah, we also have the dash. The previous owner was nice enough to send out the owner's manual and the secondary key. I think the first key got lost after he dumped this thing. This bike crashed at a very high rate of speed. I believe the previous owner is still in a wheelchair at this time, but he is alive. He let me know he threw a ton of money into this bike to get it super fast. So here's our key, and here's our OEM dash, which looks to be intact, along with our OEM ignition, which is on our front fork assembly. Or what's left of the fork assembly. We're gonna open up this key and test it on that ignition. Oh man. So we've got the key. Let's pull off this white cover. There we go. Let's put it in the ignition. Nice. Let's go. So we got the key. That's huge. You guys know with these Italian bikes, they are insanely expensive to get keys programmed to. If you guys saw the 1199 Panigale series, I had to pay over $500 just to get aftermarket keys programmed to my bike. That's gonna be it for this Ducati right now. In the next one, we're gonna be taking apart these heads, putting on brand new heads, building the motor back up, and we already have new goodies on the way. Man, I love Italian bikes. We will catch you guys in the next one. See ya. All right, some bonus content for you guys. We're headed to Tennessee. We'll catch you in 12 hours. All right, now we're in Tennessee and we're about to get some riding in.